Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Washington.
It's closed. It's totally empty. Candace Owens wasn't able to come to us, but she graciously invited us to meet with her here in Washington, D.C. So we're about to go join her for a conversation that I know you're going to love. You have a book out just now. In fact, your living room is full of books you're sending out and signing called Blackout.
Yes.
What are you hoping people will do after they read Blackout?
Well, I wrote this book initially because I felt that the media had been really successful in creating a caricature of me. Big, scary Candace, always fighting, always upset. Maybe someone that's angrier. And there were just a lot of misconceptions about me, where I came from, why I'm conservative, and what my story was. So I hope when people walk away after having read this book, they know who I am, what I believe in, but more importantly, why I believe in what I believe in and why I fight so hard for those beliefs, and have a better sense of what I believe we are fighting for in this country at this moment.
Talk a little bit about the mentors that you've had in your life and what did they do for you?
I would say my first mentor in life I didn't know was a mentor, and it was my grandfather, and I talk about him extensively in my book Blackout, because he raised me to be the person that I would become, not the person that I was. Really taught me structure, taught me the importance of having good values, and most importantly, taught me hard work, and taught me to view myself as a victor, not as a victim. And he's lived through way harsher times than I did, having grown up in a segregated South. So he was my earliest mentor in life, and I, in many ways, think that if you have certain values that are embedded into you as a child, you're way better off as an adult. So he would be the most important mentor in my life. Still is my mentor. Everyone always says, it must be impossible to argue with Candace. My Achilles heel is my grandfather. If he says he's upset about something, I'm like, all right, I'll change it. I don't want the drama. And now that I've stepped into the political space, it was an entirely different hurricane, an entirely different world, and it's hard to find who your friends are. There's a lot of ego. There's people that are trying to climb and step on each other's heads, and so that's been challenging, but I've been able to find just solid people behind me. Larry Elder is one of my mentors. He has just been an absolute rock. I can call Larry at any time, any day, and ask him a question, something that I'm working through, and because he's older than me and he's lived longer and he's kind of been in this space for much longer, he just has a wisdom, and there's something about that. With age comes wisdom. So I find that all of my mentors are a lot older than me, and yeah, they just help me be a better person and to see a perspective that they've developed with time that I can sometimes be missing because of my youth.
Is there a moment that you can remember that really stands out to you where your grandfather really pulled you along?
Yeah, it was really a culmination of moments that over time wound up really meaning something. So I talk a lot in my book about breakfast. And so my grandfather, we were taken into his house because we lived in a very poor apartment, and he didn't want his grandchildren growing up in that environment. And he was very big on breakfast. So he'd get up at 5 a.m., and he'd fix us a huge Southern breakfast. Breakfast had grits, eggs, pancakes, bacon, sausage. I mean, I don't know how I'm not 4,000 pounds. And it was every single morning. Then he'd make us what we thought was coffee. We thought it was so cool to have our mugs, and it was obviously hot chocolate. And he'd make us read the Bible in the morning and go around the table. And we didn't realize that the real reason he was having these breakfasts, it wasn't about just feeding his grandchildren, but it was I get this time in the morning, to instill values in my grandchildren. And he'd go around and he'd ask us questions about whatever scripture he read. He'd incorporate us into prayers. He had a ranking system, so whoever was the best grandchild for the last 24 hours would get the granddad mug. Second place was the grandma mug, because they all had names on them. So we were learning authority. We were learning faith. So much was packed into these breakfasts. Respect and a healthy fear. And all of these things I think are so important to maintaining a society that thrives, the family unit, the nuclear family unit. And a lot of that we see being undone in today's environment.
That's great. I think those little pieces of wisdom that you can pass on in moments that may not have felt very orchestrated. Here, have this mug because you did something really good yesterday. And,
right. That would never happen today, because now it's everybody gets a consolation prize. Everybody's a winner, even if you're clearly the loser. And it's wrong. There has to be winners. There has to be losers. You have to instill in the loser that they can be the winner tomorrow. Right? Tomorrow was always a new day. So if my brother won or my sister won, that was for 24 hours that I could win. So you could be better. Right? That's really what it's about. You can be better than you were yesterday.
And one of the pillars of this vision for us into 2021 is really growing our reach through digital content. And you have managed digital content like a pro. I mean, millions of views, millions and millions of views, tens of millions of views. Talk about the power of digital content to reach an audience.
Yes, it's funny because when I first arrived on the scene, I was almost laughed out because people within the conservative movement had just grown used to their ways, and it was very antiquated, and it was about sitting down and having panels and talking about these topics. And I thought to myself, now that I've woken up to the fact that I'm a conservative, why was I asleep to it for so long? Like, why? What was missing here? And it was the values of conservatism, which are so amazing, just wasn't being communicated in the right way. They weren't understanding this new generation of minds, if you will. And I always thought, why can't it be fun? Why can't we be funny? Why can't I start a YouTube channel? And they were like, this girl thinks she's going to make an impact on YouTube, making funny videos, flash in the pan. And I thought, why not? So I started on YouTube, and I knew that was where young minds were being seized. And if you could, instead of having somebody saying to someone, I want you to focus for 2 hours on this intellectual panel, I'm going to deliver a point in 3 minutes. And I'm going to use a little bit of humor, and you're going to know exactly what I meant. And that is something that I feel the left was really brilliant at, in taking over culture this way. And then, for me, I understood social media, the psychology behind it. The mind that goes to Instagram is different than the mind that goes to Twitter, is different than the mind that uses Facebook. So I've been really interested in and good at understanding the psychology and the impact of social media. And that is just where I thrive. And so it's great that so many people are now realizing the importance of having a digital space. And it doesn't have to be something that you're necessarily comfortable with. It may not be, but newspapers are almost extinct now. I'm telling you, Generation Z is not going to be reading newspapers. So it's necessary to always adapt to get your message out.
Right. Can you think of a story of someone who maybe met you for the first time online and had their thinking changed because of something that you've done that maybe it stands out to you?
Countless people, and for different reasons. I mean, it can be I'm in a spat with a rapper and somebody found my videos and just thought, wow, that made sense. And I always hear from parents, I found you because my son or daughter put me onto your videos. And I think that's the greatest compliment that I can possibly get, because my target is your son and your daughter, because I know what they're getting in school. I know the dogma that they're getting in school, and they're not hearing a different perspective. So if I'm able to sort of break that simulation, to break into that matrix and to challenge their ideas because they're following me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, then I go to bed at night very happy.
Yeah. Economist Walter Williams has agreed. He kind of famously pardons white people from their guilt on his website. He has a little certificate you can print out. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but so much right now is being discussed about white privilege and white guilt, and speak to folks who want to help, but we don't have inroads into that community right now, but we desperately want to make a difference.
Yes, I can speak directly to the camera, and I have been saying this probably for the last 3 months since I really studied Shelby Steele's book called White Guilt, and I've realized that the problem actually lies in the hands of white people, and it is noble and it's good that you want to help, but wanting to help is actually what's hurting Black America. It's removing personal responsibility. It's signaling to Black America that nothing is your fault and everything can be fixed if we just get help from white people. The part of white people was done in the 1960s when we got our rights, when we were finally allowed, we leveled the playing field and we said, okay, Black Americans, now you can strive in this country to be in the same institutions, to have the same jobs, to open the same businesses, to live on the same streets as white people. Unfortunately, because of the media right now, white people are being taught that they're not doing enough, that they're doing something wrong, when in fact that is the curse. White guilt is actually the curse. Right now, white Americans aren't asking Black Americans for equality. They're not saying Black Americans aren't asking for equality. We're actually asking for entitlements. And that is something that I have realized, is that when you get so used to special treatment, equality can sort of feel like oppression. And we have an entire generation of Black Americans that are not realizing that there is no oppression in this country. There is nothing that I cannot do as a Black woman in this country that you cannot do if you're a white American watching. So equality is here. Everyone just needs to start acting like it.
So, should we just stay out of it?
Yes, please. Please stop helping us. That has been my ask as of late, to please stop helping us. Stop thinking that there's more you can do. People have to want it. You have to want success. I wanted success, so I got it. My grandfather, despite growing up in segregated South, who could have complained and said, well, all this was taken from me in my youth, wanted to be successful, and he found it. Right now you have people that are taking the easy way out because they're scared to try. And by the way, life is hard. I had to fail a lot of times and fall on my butt and have the courage to stand up again. But when you give them a pass and you say, well, it's not your fault, it's because of these imaginary systemic oppressions that exist, you're actually hurting them, right? You have to teach people how to fail, how to get it wrong, how to be last sometimes, and how to be excited because tomorrow's a new day. And you can redetermine your future every single time. It's a renewable thing. You can try, you can work harder, you can be better. And we're taking that away from so many people right now by teaching them fake oppressions.
I have to wrap my head around that for a minute. Just stay out of it.
Yeah, that might be my next book.
Just stay out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wonder, in all seriousness, you're doing a great job reaching a community that you have inroads in uniquely. Can I reach the community that I uniquely have inroads into and tell them, listen, stop making it worse? I just had to think about that for a few
the
minutes.
data's there, the statistics are there. These are choices that people are making. When people will love to have a discussion, well, X amount more Black people are, in prison than white people, and they'll make it seem like there's an imaginary oppression that causes that. Well, no, look at the statistics. We're committing more crimes. For having representing 13% of the population and accounting for over 40% of the murders. Do you think murderers should not be in prison? And they'll say, no, of course I think murderers should be in prison. Well, then, so we have a different issue that we need to talk about, and that issue is Black culture, and I talk about that in my book. We cannot at the same time be shocked that people are committing crimes when we have a culture and a music that celebrates gang violence and broken families and things of that nature, and then be surprised when the result is that the youth acts in that way. We cannot at the same time fight for more government intervention when everything shows, if you look at the history of Black America, that things have been destroyed because of government intervention, because of welfare, because of the Great Society Act. So, education is freedom, and that was the purpose of me writing that book, is to educate Black Americans about what really happened to our community, how our community was destroyed, and how we have to be able to reverse engineer it. by once again resuming personal responsibility.
And you're not saying white people don't have relationships with black people.
No.
You're just saying don't enable.
Don't enable. That's exactly it. Don't enable. And I always liken it to, if I were to see, you have kids, if you had a toddler and your toddler was screaming in the street and saying, give me the candy now, and kicking you in the shin, how would you like it if I said to your toddler, like, that's okay, he's just, he's expressing his emotions, give him the candy, this is okay, he has a right to feel this way, he's had a rough day, he hasn't had a nap, all of these things justifying these actions, when in fact this toddler just needs to be parented, right, and told no, and heard no, so that they can be better tomorrow and realize that that's not the way that you get what you want in life. Well, right now we have an entire ecosystem of people who are looking at, some of the Black Americans that have radicalized and said, well, to get what we want, we're going to burn, we're going to riot, we're going to loot, and we're going to scream. And we have an entire group of white Americans that are saying, okay, we'll just give you what you want, we'll give you more of what you want. That's not how you get what you want, even if we actually lived in, in an oppressed society. That's not how people got ahead, when Jim Crow laws were in place, So we just need to stop catering and enabling bad behavior and start saying, no, actually, this is wrong. I don't care what happened in what city. You burning down this business of a man who had nothing to do with it is morally contemptible. And there's another way. And that's kind of what I offer.
I don't know how to ask this question, but it feels like what we're doing at Summit, we're trying to train up young people to own these biblical principles, personal responsibility, right? Free market economics, which we believe is a very biblical concept. Is there a God? What, and if there is, how would you live? Because of that, really mesh well with conservative principles, even though we don't want to get partisan. But talk, just kind of last question, talk a little bit about how you see these principles of faith and these principles of conservative values kind of coming together.
And it's not partisan. I always say this, I'm a conservative, right? Conservative principles, it's about conserving something, right? What are you conserving? And the truth is that if you believe in Western society, the greatest experiment ever, if you believe in Western civilization, if you believe that there is a reason why people from all over the country are trying to get into America, while in other countries they're trying to get out of, if there's a reason why we build walls to keep people out and other countries build walls to keep people in, then you need to understand where the idea of Western civilization came from. And the answer is this society was built on Judeo-Christian beliefs, right? So you can't untether yourself from that. That's what we're conserving when I say I'm a conservative. That is literally what we are conserving, Judeo-Christian beliefs, the foundational principles of the Bible, which if you read, and I say to people who aren't religious, you don't need to read the Bible as a religious person, right? And this is what the Bible used to be taught in schools before the left got rid of that. Read it objectively, right? These are great principles to live by that make your life better, that make you a better human being, that make you a better partner, a better friend, a better contributor to society. And if we can restore that, and I say restore because at the same time that we're seeing this attack on the family, we're also seeing an attack on faith, right? People that have faith are called crazy by the mainstream media. I know Joy Behar mocked our Vice President Mike Pence for saying that he speaks to Jesus. And what happens when you remove faith is that you start to see a society that suffers from extreme narcissism. It all becomes about the self, it becomes about you become selfish. And that is sort of what we're seeing today when you look around. It's all about me, and not how I can be of service to other people, which is what the Bible teaches, right? So it's all locked together, it's all mixed, and it's all a part of what I fight to restore in American society today.
Keep fighting, Candace.
Thank
you so much. We're in your corner.
Thank you so much for having me.